Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is James, and in today's video, we're diving into a head-to-head comparison between Cursor and Replit. These are two incredibly powerful tools in the AI-assisted development space, and the way people have been talking about them, I figured why not put them to the test. So I ran both through a series of 4 challenges to see how they perform. The idea was simple. Give them the exact same task with exactly the same prompts and see which one can do these tasks faster, better, and with fewer problems. So let's kick off with the first challenge. We start with importing a GitHub repository and making a small change to it. Nothing too complicated. I chose the OpenAI FM repo, popped it into Replit, and imported it directly from GitHub. Pretty straightforward. The repo loads and GitHub does its thing. npm install, then npm run dev, and the app is live. So far, everything is going well. Now I pulled up the Replit assistant and gave it a simple prompt. Review all the code in my project, create a dark mode for my app. Make sure that you identify everything that needs to be changed when switching to dark mode, including text areas. While it was working, I also copied the same prompt because I was going to reuse it in Cursor later for a fair comparison. At first, Replit got to work pretty confidently. It started making changes automatically. I had the advanced override mode on, so it didn't ask me for permission. It just got straight into it. And then the first error popped up. No big deal. I just asked the assistant to check the console and fix the errors that appeared. Eventually, the app loaded again, but there was no dark mode and there was no toggle to turn it on and off. So I gave it another nudge and asked the assistant to add a button for me to toggle the dark mode manually. It added the button, which was great, but another console error appeared. Again, fixed that. Finally, I got dark mode working. Well, sort of. The text areas were styled correctly, but the buttons were untouched. They were styled bright and jarring against the rest of the dark theme. So I moved on to the second task, which is adding a UI component, specifically a left-hand side menu with links to voices and settings, styled to match the existing dashboard. Here was a prompt. Add a left-hand menu in the same style with all the voices and have a settings button. Now this part, Replit handled pretty well. The menu looks great. It even added a burger-style toggle menu that fits in really nicely with the app's look. But just like with the dark mode, it doesn't quite extend the styling correctly, so good attempt, but still needed a little bit of extra polishing. Now it was Cursor's turn. I opened the same GitHub repo locally using Cursor, installed the dependencies, and launched the app with npm run dev. Once it was running, I gave Cursor the exact same prompt. Cursor was a bit more methodical. Instead of diving straight into the code, it paused and said, "Here's a plan. Shall I go ahead and implement it?" I told it to proceed and it went ahead with the changes. So far, quite neat. Then came the console errors. Nothing surprising here. I asked it to review the error and fix it, and it came back with a solution. Dark mode loaded, and I immediately noticed that it had given us a toggle for the dark mode, but it was exactly the same as the existing toggle on the page. I would have expected something to indicate that it was actually the dark mode toggle. Also, just like Replit, the buttons didn't adapt to dark mode styling at all. The text areas were perfect, the buttons not so much. It also added a strange gradient in the top left-hand corner, which was a bit off-brand and not what I wanted. Next up was the menu challenge for Cursor. I gave Cursor the same prompt. Add the left-hand menu in the same style with all the voices and have a settings button. This time, it nailed the functionality. The menu looked good, it matched the style, and the links were functional. However, just like Replit, dark mode still didn't apply to everything. But visually, Cursor's menu is good. Now we move on to the third task, which is a fun one. Create a dashboard from scratch. I asked both tools to build a fun and colorful dashboard for a dog grooming app. The dashboard needed to track the dogs that had been groomed, owner contact information, and show which services were provided. I also asked it to follow modern UI and UX best practices. My exact prompt was create a dashboard for my dog grooming app that allows me to keep track of the dogs that have been in to get groomed, their owner's contact information, and what services they have gotten. The dashboard should look fun and colorful, but follow UI and UX best practices. Replit went first. It began by creating a visual preview, not something you can interact with, but pretty close prototype. It looked good at first glance, had the right layout, buttons were in place, and it seemed like everything was where it should be. But then things got a bit weird. The text turned white on the white background, making it basically unreadable. All the features were there, but it just looked broken. I told it that the colors were terrible and it started trying to fix things. To Replit's credit, it was responsive, but the initial design was a miss. Cursor's approach was a bit different. It laid out the app and technology before and gave me a chance to select what I wanted. It asked me if I wanted to use Tailwinds, Vite, and Node.js. I agreed, and it scaffolded out a full app. It created all the necessary files and structures, ran the commands, and started the development server. Again, an error, but we asked it to fix the error from the console, and it did. Once the dashboard loaded, Cursor had built out all the functionality I'd requested. Dogs' names, owner details, checkboxes for bars and trim, everything. But the design, it felt like a placeholder template. Functionality, yes. Visually appealing, not at all. So Cursor had all the pieces, but it wasn't something I would use. Now onto the final task, creating a landing page for the dog grooming software. The task was clear. Create a website landing page for my software for dog grooming business. Replit did a great job with this one. With a single prompt, it created a landing page with a banner, headline, feature list, pricing section, everything you would expect. It was fully styled, responsive, and generally usable. Honestly, I could have published it with just a few text changes. Cursor, on the other hand, generated a basic HTML and CSS page. It wasn't bad, everything worked, but it lacked detail. The header was plain, the layout was sparse, and it just wasn't great. Definitely not something I'd ship to the world without putting a lot of effort in beforehand. So, what was the scores? For the first challenge, importing a GitHub repo and adding the dark mode, both needed extra nudging. Replit got a 7 out of 10 and Cursor got a 6 out of 10. They both struggled with button styling and needed multiple prompts to get things right. For the menu challenge, I gave both an 8 out of 10. Both menus looked good, they followed the style well, and got the job done. For the dashboard, it was a bit underwhelming on both sides. Replit's design looked better, but wasn't functional out of the gate, so it got a 5. Cursor had everything I needed functionally, but the design was really bland, so it got a 3. And finally, the landing page. Replit absolutely nailed it with a 9 out of 10. Cursor, not so much. It got a 4, not unusable, but far from production ready. So, if you're still with me, thank you. If you found this comparison helpful and you've enjoyed these deep dives into AI tools, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification. It really helps the channel grow and get these videos to more people. I've got full walkthroughs on both Replit and Cursor on my channel, and a lot of other videos walking you through how to build full apps using just prompts, what works, what doesn't work, and how to avoid common pitfalls. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.